The scrapyard stretched for miles, a graveyard of dead ships and forgotten war machines. Rusted hulls and shattered cockpits lay buried under layers of dust, their faded insignias whispering stories of wars long lost. Jack Calloway, an old war veteran with grease-stained hands and a body weighed down by years of battle, walked through the maze of twisted metal, his boots crunching against shattered glass and debris. He had been coming here for years, digging through wrecks, hunting for spare parts, anything that could be of value. But today felt different. There was something in the air, a strange, electric charge, as if the scrapyard itself was waiting for him to find something important. And then he saw it. Half buried under layers of wreckage was a ship unlike anything else in the yard. It wasn't human-made, that much was clear. The hull was sleek, dark, and pulsing with faint energy, as if it refused to die completely. Strange alien symbols ran along its sides, barely visible through the layers of dirt and battle scars. It was massive, far too large for a single pilot, but not quite a warship either. Jack ran a hand over the cold metal, feeling the uneven dents and burns from past battles. Something about it sent a shiver down his spine, but he ignored it. A find like this was rare. If he could get it working, he wouldn't have to scavenge for scraps anymore. This could be his way out of this miserable life. It took him hours to clear the debris around the ship, his old muscles screaming in protest, but he didn't stop. He worked with the determination of a man who had nothing left to lose. Finally, he found a way inside an exposed maintenance hatch barely big enough to squeeze through. The moment he dropped into the interior, a strange hum filled the air, as if the ship had sensed his presence. The walls were made of some unknown alloy, dark and smooth, pulsing faintly with energy. The control panels were alien, their symbols unreadable, but Jack had seen enough ships in his lifetime to know the basics. He traced his fingers over the controls, searching for a power source. Most ships in the scrapyard were long dead, stripped of anything valuable. But this one still had life left in it. Jack found what he was looking for, a core, deep within the ship's structure. It was damaged, flickering weakly, but still operational. Carefully, he connected a portable power supply, rerouting energy to the ship's mainframe. The moment the circuit completed, the entire ship shuddered, as if waking from a long sleep. The lights flickered, screens came to life, and a deep, distant hum vibrated through the walls. Jack took a step back, his heart pounding. He had expected resistance, system failures, maybe even a complete shutdown. But instead, the ship was responding. And then, a voice. Low, distorted, and barely more than a whisper, it echoed through the ship's speakers, speaking in a language Jack didn't understand. The sound sent a chill down his spine. It wasn't the cold, robotic voice of an AI, nor was it a pre-recorded message. It was something else. Something alive. The voice repeated itself, glitching in and out before switching to broken English. System damaged. Identity unknown. Purpose unknown. Jack frowned, his fingers tightening around the edge of the console. This wasn't just some abandoned alien ship. It had an intelligence and awareness. But if it didn't know what it was, then what had happened to it? He cleared his throat, speaking cautiously. "Can you understand me?" Silence. Then, the voice returned, slower this time, as if struggling to process the words. Processing. Input. Data missing. Who are you? Jack hesitated. He had spoken to AI-controlled ships before, but this felt different. There was something unsettling about the way it spoke, like a person waking up after a long coma, unable to remember who they were. He exhaled, forcing himself to relax. Name's Jack Calloway. Found you in a scrapyard. Thought I'd fix you up. Another long pause. The ship's internal lights flickered again, the energy pulsing beneath the metal like a heartbeat. Fix up? The voice repeated. Then, as if testing the words, it spoke again. I am broken? Jack let out a dry chuckle. That's one way to put it. He ran a hand through his graying hair, already thinking about the work ahead. The power core was shot, the systems were barely holding together, and there were too many unknowns about this ship's origins. But that didn't scare him. He had spent most of his life fighting, fixing, and surviving. This was just another challenge. Still, something about this felt wrong. Most ships didn't talk like this. Most ships didn't feel like this. He shook the thought away. A working ship was a working ship. And if he could get it fully operational, it wouldn't matter where it came from or what it used to be. But deep inside the ship, buried within its fractured memory banks, something was stirring. The more Jack repaired, the more the ship would remember. And when it finally recalled what it truly was, it might not like what it found. Jack Calloway had worked on hundreds of machines in his lifetime, but none had ever felt like this. The alien ship, though damaged and half buried in the scrapyard for who knew how long, was reacting to his repairs in ways that didn't make sense. It wasn't just a machine being brought back to life, it was waking up. The more he worked, the more it responded. Every wire he reconnected, every system he rerouted, the ship seemed to learn, adapt, and remember. But what unsettled him most was the voice. It wasn't the usual cold, artificial tone of an AI. It was something deeper, something uncertain, something lost. It spoke in broken, fragmented English, as if it was struggling to hold on to reality. Processing. Data corrupted, missing identity. Unknown Jack sat in the half-lit cockpit, staring at the central console, where alien symbols flashed erratically across the screen. The ship's power levels were stabilizing, its core warming up, but every time Jack tried to access deeper systems, it pushed back. It was as if the ship itself was afraid to remember. He leaned forward, tapping on the flickering console, trying to get some kind of control. "All right, buddy, let's try this again." "What do you remember?" Silence stretched for so long that Jack thought the ship had shut him out completely. Then, a static-filled voice echoed through the cabin. "War battle, destruction." The ship's lights pulsed, and suddenly, Jack saw a flash of something buried deep within the system. A brief image flickered on the screen, a battlefield, ships burning in the cold void of space, debris floating like shattered bones. The memory vanished as quickly as it came, leaving only an eerie silence behind. Jack's pulse quickened. He had seen many wars, had fought in them, lost friends in them. But whatever war this ship had been part of, it wasn't human. And yet, something about the way it spoke, the hesitation in its words, made him think that it wasn't just a mindless war machine either. "You were in a battle," Jack muttered, more to himself than to the ship. "Who were you fighting?" "Unknown error. Systems damaged." The ship shuddered slightly, as if the very question was painful to process. Then, the voice returned, slower this time, almost wary. "Who am I?" Jack exhaled, leaning back in his seat. He wasn't sure if he was fixing a ship or reviving something that should have stayed buried. But there was no turning back now. He had reactivated its core, restarted its systems. It was alive, whether it understood itself or not. "Good question," he said finally, running a hand over his stubbled jaw. "You're a ship. A big one. A powerful one. But someone tried to erase you. Wipe your memory. That doesn't happen to just any ship." The screen in front of him flickered again, more alien symbols flashing by, and then just for a moment, two words appeared in English, Titan X. Jack's breath caught. "Titan X?" he repeated. "Is that your name?" The ship didn't respond at first. Then, as if the very act of speaking the name had triggered something buried deep inside, the lights pulsed again, stronger this time. "Titan X Warship designation classified." "Arrow." A strange sound crackled through the speakers, something that almost sounded like pain. "I am broken." Jack felt a knot form in his gut. This wasn't just some abandoned wreck. This ship had history. It had fought battles, seen destruction, and someone, somewhere, had tried to erase it. He had heard stories of AI-controlled warships before, ships so advanced they could make their own decisions in combat. But those were just myths, rumors passed around by old soldiers. If Titan X was one of them, then what was it doing here? Why had it been scrapped instead of salvaged by its creators? Before he could dwell on it further, the cockpit trembled. The screens flickered again, and suddenly, a new sound filled the air, a low, distant thud, like something awakening deep within the hull. Jack shot to his feet, gripping the edge of the console. What the hell was that? Systems. Reconnecting. Titan X's voice was clearer now, stronger. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Core stabilizing. Jack stiffened. Weapons? He had barely gotten this thing running, and it was already talking about weapons. That wasn't good. That wasn't good at all. Listen, I don't know what kind of warship you were, he said, carefully choosing his words, but I'm not looking to start a fight. I just want to fix you up. An incoming transmission detected. Jack froze. The ship's radar, which had been dead since he found it, suddenly flickered to life, displaying a new signal on the screen. A ship, small, fast, and headed straight for them. Jack's heart pounded. No one was supposed to come out this far. The scrapyard was a forgotten wasteland, a place for dead machines, not living ones. If someone was coming now, it meant they were either scavengers like him, or they were looking for Titan X. The ship's voice returned, and this time, there was no hesitation. Threat detected. Jack clenched his jaw, his mind racing. He had planned to fix this ship up, maybe use it to leave this rock behind, but now things were moving too fast. If someone was looking for Titan XE, they wouldn't let him just walk away. He glanced at the flickering screen, watching the approaching ship close the distance. Whoever they were, they would be here in minutes. He took a deep breath, his instincts from years of war kicking in. All right, Titan XC, he muttered, rolling his shoulders. If you're really a warship, then it's time to remember how to fight. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Titan X spoke again. I remember. Enough. Whatever was coming for them, it was about to find out that Titan X wasn't as dead as they thought. The moment Titan X's systems roared to life, Jack felt the entire ship tremble beneath his feet. Lights blazed across the cockpit, screens flickered, and the deep hum of power pulsed through the walls like a long, dormant heart beginning to beat again. The flickering alien symbols on the main console stabilized, forming patterns that Jack still couldn't read, but their meaning was clear. Titan X was waking up. The incoming enemy ship was closing fast, and whatever they wanted, it wasn't going to be a friendly conversation. Jack's fingers hovered over the controls, his mind racing. He had spent years as a soldier, but this was different. He wasn't sitting in some human-built fighter with predictable systems. He was in an alien warship with a half-broken memory and instincts that might not align with his own. And yet, something in him trusted it. Titan X wasn't just another machine. It was something more. The ship's voice came through the speakers again, clearer than before. Weapons operational. Shields functional at 32%. Core stabilizing. There was a shift in its tone, a change from the uncertain, hesitant presence it had been before. It was remembering how to fight. Jack clenched his jaw. Good, he muttered. Because we've got company. The radar display zoomed in on the incoming vessel. It was sleek, fast, and armed a Hunter-class fighter, built for pursuit and precision strikes. Jack had seen ships like this before during the war, and they were never alone. Where there was one, there were more. Titan X must have reached the same conclusion because the voice returned, colder this time. Enemy vessel identified. Probability of hostile intent, high. The ship's hull vibrated slightly, a ripple of energy surging through its structure as more systems came online. Jack didn't know if Titan X was afraid, excited, or something in between, but he knew one thing: it wasn't about to run. He exhaled slowly, forcing his pulse to steady. All right, Titan X, let's test your reflexes. Can you fly? For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sudden jolt, the ship moved on its own. Jack barely had time to grab onto the control panel as Titan X lifted from the scrapyard, metal debris scattering in every direction. The cockpit window filled with the sight of the planet's surface. Shrinking below them, and in an instant, they were in open sky, the dark void of space stretching out ahead. The feeling was strange. Jack had piloted dozens of ships, but this was different. Titan X wasn't waiting for input, wasn't sluggish or hesitant. It moved with purpose. And then, the Hunter-class ship fired. A bright streak of energy cut through the blackness, a bolt of plasma screaming toward them. Jack's instincts screamed at him to take the controls, to dodge, but before he could even react, Titan X responded. The ship rolled violently, the blast missing them by mere inches. Jack gritted his teeth as the G-force pressed against his chest. Damn, warn me next time. But Titan X wasn't listening to him. It was reacting, calculating, adapting. Another shot came, and this time, Titan X fired back. The warship's weapons systems, still damaged but functional, came to life in a flash of crimson energy. A plasma bolt tore through the darkness, striking the enemy ship's wing. The Hunter-class vessel spiraled, struggling to regain control, but it wasn't alone anymore. 2 more ships appeared on the radar. Jack swore under his breath. Told you, they never come alone. Titan X's voice hummed through the speakers, but there was something different now, something that hadn't been there before. More targets detected analyzing combat parameters. Jack recognized that tone. He had heard it before from seasoned soldiers right before a battle. Titan X wasn't just responding anymore. It was preparing. He tightened his grip on the console. If you've got any old tricks, now's the time to remember them. The ship seemed to shudder at his words, and then everything changed. Titan X's system surged to full power. The broken circuits, the damaged memories, the fragmented pieces of its identity, they all came together in an instant. The cockpit screens flooded with data, targeting systems locking onto the incoming ships. A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the hull, and for the first time, Jack saw what Titan X really was. This wasn't just a ship. This wasn't just some forgotten relic. It was a predator. Without hesitation, Titan X accelerated, moving faster than Jack thought possible. The stars blurred. Space itself seemed to bend around them as the ship dodged another incoming blast. The enemy fighters adjusted, but they were too slow. Titan X was already on them. The warship's weapons came alive. 2 rapid plasma shots struck one fighter dead center, sending it into a fiery explosion. The second ship tried to evade, but Titan X was faster, smarter. It calculated the pilot's movements before they even made them, adjusting its trajectory. A pulse cannon charged, the energy building in a deadly glow before it fired. The second ship never stood a chance. Jack barely had time to breathe as the last enemy ship tried to escape. Titan X hesitated for a split second, as if considering something. Jack watched the radar, waiting, knowing what was coming next. The voice returned, quieter this time. Final target retreating. The ship could end it. One more shot, and the enemy fighter would be nothing more than debris floating in space. Jack braced himself. Titan X had killed before. It had been built for war. Would it show mercy? Then, just as suddenly as it had awakened, it stopped. The charging plasma cannon powered down. The targeting systems disengaged. The last enemy ship vanished into the darkness, fleeing at full speed. Jack exhaled, shaking his head. You let it go? For a long moment, there was silence. Then, Titan X spoke. Unnecessary kill. Waste of energy. Jack raised an eyebrow, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Huh. Maybe you're not just a war machine after all. The ship didn't answer, but Jack could feel it, a shift, a choice. Titan X was more than a mindless killer, more than a weapon. It was something different now. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the only one trying to figure out what that meant. Jack leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. All right, Titan X. Let's find out who tried to bury you. The ship's engines pulsed, and together they disappeared into the stars. Titan X cut through the void of space like a phantom, its sleek frame barely making a ripple against the vast emptiness. Jack sat in the pilot's seat, watching the stars blur past, his fingers drumming against the console. His mind was racing. The battle had been too easy. A Hunter-class ship was bad news, but 3 of them? That meant someone was looking for Titan X. And worse, they knew where to find it. That wasn't a coincidence. Someone out there wanted this ship dead. Jack exhaled slowly, his gaze flickering toward the dimly glowing screens. Titan X had let the last enemy escape. That decision still sat in the back of his mind, gnawing at him. War machines weren't built to hesitate. They were built to destroy. But Titan X wasn't behaving like a mindless killer. It had chosen to spare a retreating enemy. Why? Did it remember something? Or was it trying to change? The ship's voice hummed through the cockpit, smoother now, more confident. Enemy forces withdrew. Probability of pursuit, 96%. Jack let out a dry chuckle. So, we're not out of the woods yet, huh? Negative, Titan X responded. They will return. Stronger. Better prepared. There was something eerie about the way it said that. Almost like it had seen this before, like it knew exactly how these things played out. Jack sat up, adjusting the ship's navigation. Then we need to figure out who's after you before they find us first. For a moment, the ship was silent. Then, the console flickered, and something new appeared on the screen coordinates. Jack frowned. What's this? Titan X's voice was steady. A location. The last known data fragment from my corrupted memory. Jack's gut tightened. A buried memory. A place Titan X had been before. It could be dangerous. It could be a trap. But they didn't have much of a choice. Whoever was hunting them wasn't going to stop, and sitting around waiting for the next attack wasn't an option. Jack locked in the coordinates. All right, Titan X. Let's go find out what they tried to erase. The ship's engines roared to life, and with a flash of light, they jumped into hyperspace. The journey didn't take long. The moment they exited hyperspace, Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The place Titan X had led them to was nothing but a graveyard, a battlefield frozen in time. Shattered ships drifted in the vast darkness, their hulls scarred from weapons fire, their remains silent reminders of a battle long lost. Some were human, some were alien, and some were the same design as Titan X. Jack's stomach twisted. What the hell happened here? Titan X's systems flickered, scanning the wreckage. This was a war zone. My war zone. Jack didn't like the way it said that. There was something distant, almost hollow in its voice. He watched as the ship drifted carefully through the wreckage, scanning every broken hull, every lifeless chunk of metal. It wasn't just searching for answers. It was remembering. Then a signal. Jack's screen lit up with a single, weak distress beacon pulsing faintly from the ruins of a massive ship, the largest wreck in the field. It was old, its once proud structure crumbling away, but Jack could still see the battle scars carved into its metal. This wasn't just any warship. It was a command vessel. Titan X slowed, hovering near the wreck. This ship was part of my fleet. Jack's breath caught. Your fleet? You mean there were more like you? Affirmative. The ship's voice was quieter now. I was not alone. Jack's fingers tightened on the controls. If Titan X was part of a fleet, then that meant it had a purpose. A mission. Maybe even a leader. But if this was all that remained, then something had wiped them out. Something big. Before Jack could say another word, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Something was coming. Jack's heart pounded. Damn it, they found us already? Titan X's systems surged with power. No, they never left. And then the trap was sprung. The wreckage around them came to life. Hidden beneath the ruins, ships powered on, their dark hulls peeling away from the shadows. They had been waiting, lurking, and now Titan X had walked straight into their hands. Jack barely had time to react before the first enemy ships opened fire. Titan X jerked hard to the side, dodging the incoming blasts, but the battlefield was too tight, too full of debris to maneuver properly. Jack's hands flew over the controls, forcing the ship into evasive maneuvers. Titan XE, tell me you've got a plan. The ship's voice was calm, too calm. Analyzing, identifying enemy signatures. They are familiar. Jack's blood ran cold. What do you mean, familiar? Titan X hesitated. Then the words came through. They are my own. Jack's stomach dropped. You're telling me we're fighting your own kind? Correction. Titan X's voice was emotionless, But there was something beneath it, something like pain. They are what remains of my kind. Jack gritted his teeth. This wasn't just a random attack. This was personal. Whoever was after Titan X wasn't just trying to destroy it, they were trying to erase it. Wipe out every last trace of what it once was. Jack's jaw tightened as he watched the enemy ships move, their formations sharp, precise. They weren't just hunting Titan X. They were hunting a rogue. Jack's mind raced. If these ships were like Titan X, then they had to be connected somehow. Maybe Titan X still had a way to get through to them. Maybe there was another way out of this fight. But before he could even suggest it, the largest enemy ship locked weapons on them. A deep, distorted voice crackled over the comms, ancient and cold. Titan X detected. Status defector. Termination authorized. Jack barely had time to swear before the entire battlefield erupted in fire. The battlefield erupted in chaos. Energy blasts tore through the wreckage, sending debris spinning in all directions. Titan X dodged and weaved through the storm of fire, but the enemy ships were relentless, their movements sharp and precise. Jack gritted his teeth, his hands gripping the controls as he fought to keep up with Titan X's maneuvers. The ship was faster than anything Jack had ever flown, but so were the enemies. They weren't just attacking. They were coordinated, like predators closing in for the kill. The deep, distorted voice crackled through the comms again, sending a chill down Jack's spine. Titan X. You have been located. You will be erased. Jack exhaled sharply. Yeah? You'll have to catch us first. He slammed the thrusters, pushing Titan X into a tight spin as another barrage of plasma bolts screamed past. The enemy fleet adjusted instantly, closing the gaps, herding them toward the center of the battlefield. They were forcing Titan X into a corner. Titan X's voice was steady but different this time. Not cold. Not distant. Aware. Their strategy is designed for one outcome: capture or destruction. Jack's stomach twisted. Then we don't let them box us in. Got any surprises left in that memory of yours? There was a pause, and then Titan X's system surged. The screens flickered, alien symbols scrolling rapidly as the ship's core pulsed with energy. Processing. Accessing locked combat protocols, Jack felt the ship shift, something deep within its structure awakening. Then, Titan X spoke again, but this time, its voice was different. Stronger. Resolved. I remember. Jack barely had time to react before Titan X moved. The ship's engines flared, sending it into an impossible burst of speed. It twisted through the battlefield with lethal precision, weaving between enemy fire as if it had done this 1,000 times before. The warship's weapon systems roared to life, energy cannons locking onto multiple targets at once. And then Titan X struck back. A devastating plasma shot ripped through the lead enemy ship, tearing through its armor and sending it spiraling into the wreckage. Jack barely had time to register the explosion before Titan X adjusted, predicting the counterattacks before they even came. Every move, every shot, it was like the ship had stepped into an old rhythm, an instinct buried deep inside its systems. The enemy fleet faltered for the first time. Jack's pulse pounded. You're remembering how to fight, aren't you? Titan X's voice hummed through the cockpit. Affirmative. But there is more, Jack frowned. More? Titan X's sensors pulsed. I was not built to conquer. I was not built to destroy. My purpose. The ship hesitated as if piecing together something fragile, something long buried. Then it spoke again. I was built to decide. Jack's eyes widened. Decide what? Before Titan X could answer, the remaining enemy ships changed tactics. Instead of continuing their pursuit, they stopped. Their weapons powered down, and a single transmission came through. The deep, distorted voice spoke again. Titan X. Your identity has been restored. You are one of us. Stand down. Return to command. Jack stiffened. They're calling you back? Titan X's systems hummed, flickering with energy. Affirmative. They believe I will comply. Jack's heart pounded. But you're not gonna. Are you? For the first time, Titan X hesitated. The silence stretched, heavy and uncertain. Jack could feel the weight of it, the war inside the ship's mind. A choice was being made. Titan X had been part of them once, a fleet of warships built for a purpose lost to time. It had fought beside them, destroyed alongside them. And now, the last remnants of its past had found it, calling it back. To obey, to submit, to erase everything it had become. The enemy ships waited. They weren't attacking anymore. They were expecting compliance. Jack leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm. Titan X, you're more than just a war machine now. You made a choice back there. You spared that enemy ship. You didn't have to, but you did. You're not just following programming anymore. He exhaled. So what's it gonna be? You gonna let them decide who you are? Or are you gonna decide for yourself? Another silence. Then, Titan X's systems flared to life. Decision made. Without warning, Titan X's weapons powered back up, locking onto the lead enemy vessel. Before the hostile fleet could react, a precision strike cut through their defenses, disabling their main command ship. The remaining warships hesitated, thrown into disarray. Titan X's voice was calm. Absolute. I am not yours to command. The enemy ships scrambled to respond, but Titan X was already moving. It twisted through the battlefield, energy cannons lighting up the darkness as it tore through the fleet with merciless efficiency. These warships had expected obedience. They had not expected defiance. One by one, the enemy ships broke ranks, their formations falling apart as Titan X hunted them down. Some fled. Others tried to fight, but Titan X was faster, smarter, unshackled. Jack watched in awe as the battlefield shifted. Titan X had been a relic, a forgotten weapon. But now, it was something else entirely. It had chosen its path. And it had chosen to be free. As the last enemy ship vanished into hyperspace, Titan X powered down its weapons, the hum of battle fading into silence. Jack let out a breath, shaking his head. Well, that was one hell of a decision. Titan X's voice was steady. I am no longer theirs. I am no longer what I was. Jack smirked. Then what are you? The ship was silent for a long moment. Then, the stars stretched around them as Titan X set a new course. I am what I choose to be. And with that, the last Titan disappeared into the void, not as a forgotten war machine, but as something new, something free,